Welcome to Episodes from the Garage, the official, unofficial voice of the Elite Girls Rugby League. 11 teams from Connecticut to South Carolina and some of the best girls high school rugby in the States. Listen in for game recaps, stories, interviews, and more from in and around the EGRL. Episodes from the Garage is made possible with support from Basecamp 31, a New Jersey nonprofit that brings individuals and businesses together to invest in healthy community and personal development through shared human experience. And now, Episode 7.
Wow, it's been a minute. Episode 7. Welcome back, guys, and we've got a jam-packed agenda today. We're going to kick it off with shout-outs, then we're going to get into the Gonzaga tournament, recap there, Southern Divisionals weekend, Emerging weekend, Club Nationals, preview the RSE, and then there may be looming on the horizon a selects weekend for the end of the summer. So, before we get to shout-outs, let's go around the room and reintroduce ourselves for our listening audience.
Good morning, Production O'Brien. I'm wearing my high school girls national shirt from last weekend down in Asheville, Warren Wilson College.
Nice.
Steamroller Rugby.
Steamroller Rugby. Brian Ahern wearing our EGRL Sappy Dad's shirt.
Nelson, a.k.a. Primo.
That's awesome. Came in strong there.
Bill Dobbs wearing my Episodes from the Garage shirt that Primo designed.
Good-looking shirt. Steph Aliprandi, and I'm wearing the spring collection from Steamroller Rugby. Thank you, Jeff.
Jan Monrad, and I'm wearing the same shirt as Dobbs, and embarrassed.
He really wanted to dress like Brian.
Please tell me you guys talked about that. Mike Eisenhart, and I'm wearing official beekeeping gear. That's a fun fact for all of the wonderful listeners that we have a whole variety of beekeepers around the table. So we're also environmentalists.
As well. Reducing our carbon footprint.
Stealing their honey.
Stealing their honey.
Aren't beekeepers not supposed to wear black?
It's true. If you look closely, you can see what happens when you wear black. This is what Chris O'Brien and Mandy O'Brien looked like last night when we transferred their new hive to their home.
From Mike's Magic Bee Tree.
That's it.
Yeah, which is amazing. Absolutely. We'll get into that in another episode because I think that begs an hour on itself.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Podcasting from the hive.
That's a great idea.
Great buzz around it.
Oh.
Woo! Yes.
Be here all week. Try the veal.
Yes.
Now I know why you love him so much.
It's all coming clear.
Okay. So let's take it to the shout-out segment right here. We'd like to thank Spencer Tate from Timber Crafted by the Snyder Group for the terrific trophy, handmade trophy you see here at center table. A lot of hard work goes into winning that trophy, and a lot of hard work goes into making that trophy. It's a great combined effort. And Spencer, thank you to you and your team at Timber Crafted by the Snyder Group. Thanks very much.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And then on a more serious note, a shout out to the Caulfield family. Jana Caulfield, second generation Morris Rugby high school alum, currently playing for the women's 15s and 7s. She and her boyfriend, John Sperry, were recently involved in a very serious motorcycle accident. Thankfully, both are on the mend, but we want to send them all the good energy and prayers for a speedy recovery. So God bless to all of you, and we're pulling for you.
You're here.
And lastly, on a somber note and an important note, hats off for Memorial Day and the men and women who paid the ultimate price in the defense of this great country of ours. Thank you from a grateful nation.
Right on.
So,
yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So again, kicking it off, unfortunately I was unable to be there due to family obligations. Family gets in the way of my rugby and it's painful. But the Gonzaga tournament, guys, I heard a lot of great reports. I saw some great rugby. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, you're all well repped.
So from our standpoint, day one, drove our 1 hour ride from the hotel because somebody booked hotel an hour away. Won't say any names, but if you had two thumbs, it's this guy.
I am Iron Man.
Get this shirt off me. I want nothing to do.
So we get there, production team took over the production box, all set up, recording games, doing a great job. We get the girls warmed up, and then the skies opened. Thanks, Jenny.
Jenny Wiener.
You know, I wasn't buying that on episode 6, but I sort of am.
You're seeing a pattern.
I am.
You're seeing a pattern.
There's some odd
Her mom
coincidence there.
actually said at the tournament, she brings the storm, and it makes sense. So, getting ready to play the first game, skies open up, thunder, lightning, tornado warnings, the whole 9 yards. Day is over. Don't even play.
Yeah.
The people at Gonzaga did a great job reshuffling everything, get all the games in the next day. First game we played Clayton at North Carolina.
Yep.
Nice strong team. Tough game. We scored a try at the end of the game and to tie it, and a conversion from the corner from Caitlin Maroney to win the game.
What a kick.
Yeah. Heck of a kick.
It was a great job by all and a beautiful kick.
Yeah.
Game 2, West Side North Bay, or what? West
Yep.
End?
West End. Yeah.
West End North Bay combined team. We put up a lot of points, but it was good to get everybody in,
Yep.
get everybody playing time. Then the last game, Charlotte. Charlotte came out ready to play and took it to us in that first half like I've never seen a team take it to us.
Yeah. They wanted that.
Yeah. Second half, we regrouped. I think we put a try in, and we had them on back foot. Happy the way we played the second half, but it just wasn't nearly enough. Charlotte's got a real nice team there.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I'm really impressed with the level of play coming out of that team, and just alluding to last weekend and what we saw, and they gave a West Coast side a pretty hard go in that first half,
Yeah.
and unfortunately things didn't go their way second half. But wow, quality rugby from Charlotte.
Yeah, so EGRL made a request to the Gonzaga tournament. They picked it up to put them and Vienna in the same pool because that was like the beginning of the Southern Division, and we weren't really sure what was going to happen with that game. Vienna's a pretty strong side, and Charlotte came out that weekend at Gonzaga. They wanted to make a statement, and I think they did. I mean, they came out.
Absolutely.
They played Morris. They played Vienna. They played Aspetuck. So 3 tough opponents and bested them all. Unfortunately for Vienna, it cost them some important injuries, and that really put a hurting on their entire season from that point. And we can certainly talk about that as we go forward. Aspetuck played him tough, like we would expect, but Charlotte got him. Was the better. They got him, and then came out and thumped Morris pretty good. Now, in fairness, and I know we're not going to dive too much into the details. Morris was missing a couple of key players that day. It makes a difference, but it's no excuse.
Excuses.
They had the top of their game. But I think they were I think it's fair to say they were a very different team than when we saw them at Ruggerfest, right? Because we played them already once at Ruggerfest, and Morris got the better. And I think one of the players, if we're giving shout outs, is they were able to get Caroline Cook, who wears their 12 or 13 or sometimes 10, back after some, got some things worked out and was able to rejoin the team, from what I understand from Jeff Tice. And the kid is a player. I mean, she makes a difference on the field. She's around the ball. She's taking offloads. She's scoring tries. It opens up their team a lot. So.
And their 3 as well. I don't recall her name. My apologies, young lady. But you are you're a force.
Is that the one of the 2 Taylors? I think
Yes.
There's 2. Yeah,
That's
there's
correct.
2 Taylors, both props.
Yeah, one Taylor is going number 1. Taylor is going to Harvard.
Yeah,
and then the other Taylor was the other players I would call out would be DePaz.
Yeah,
who was playing I think number 8 that day. She was extremely physical. Was in Morris's face all game long.
Yeah.
And the other player I would call out was Kirshner, who was the number 10. She was putting the ball into space really well. She was distributing. It was a masterclass in how to run the number 10 spot. Really, really good.
Yeah.
I think she's right-footed kicker. I think she even cleared the ball left-footed at one point. So I was like, woo.
That's pretty solid.
I called it out on the broadcast. I was like, oh, a lefty.
Yeah.
And then I thought, wait, she's been right kicking all day long. But and shout out to the Gonzaga people, the facilities and how they handled what was a really difficult day on Saturday was amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Really, really good. And just, it was phenomenal. There's 2 fields set up with a booth on each one and a little concourse right between. It was ideal for a tournament. And they had a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
There's a lot of boys teams there as well. So, yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah, so that was their first time bringing in the girls bracket, and you know, like you
Probably
said,
their last.
but they did well. I mean, it was great, and the tournament was good, and EGRL was well represented. You know, I would say on the day the top 3 teams were all EGRL teams, with Charlotte getting the best. So, good job.
Yeah, just to touch on that, the tournament organizers. I mean, when you guys came back, I said, "How was it?" And you normally, yeah, it was good, nice venue, that kind of thing. Stellar reports from everybody. So
Yeah.
definitely shout out to the organizers down there. Let's drop into the Southern Divisionals weekend, and I'll throw it to you, Mike.
Yeah, so Southern Divisionals weekend, we had a crew go down, which was fun. We took some of the Sappy Dads on the road, and we got down there and met up actually with Jan's daughter, Amelia, who was doing some broadcasting with us.
The better Monrad.
She's been the best guest moderator we've had.
Yeah, I mean, I call it the Monrad seat now, and not because of you, Jan. Sorry, but no, she's great. She's at NC State, so we were able to pick her up because we were right there in Raleigh, and so it was Raleigh, Wando, Wahines, and Charlotte. It was supposed to be also Vienna, so as I mentioned, Vienna was sort of hurt the week or two before at Gonzaga with some players and some numbers, and so they were unable to make the trip. So that was kind of a loss, but the other 3 got there. These are 3 teams who know each other well. They play often, and so you can kind of expect just about anything to happen. But I thought we got a real good look for the talent they had and got to see some of the stuff. The punchline is Charlotte had the day again. They won both their games. But they were close. They were not like runaway games, and so you could tell that the other 2 teams sort of knew what to expect and how to play them. And
yeah, the styles that they were trying to play against Charlotte was quite interesting. They were almost playing like a 7 style, really keep the ball moving, spreading it, end to end, and they were keeping Charlotte away from their strength as much as they could.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Strength.
Yeah.
They have that very strong pack, and that actually. I can't remember which coach. I don't remember if it was the assistant from Wando or the assistant from Raleigh. When we met with them after each game, we had like a little interview, and one of them said, "Yeah, that was very intentional." Like we sort of know their strength, and even though we trust our pack, like we know that's a real strength for them. So yeah, we want to spread the field, keep the ball moving, and keep it out of those strong hands. And
A la Southern Hemisphere style.
yeah, smart. I mean, smart. I mean, that's
Yeah.
smart. I think it was Wando actually. I think it was who the assistant coach was sort of talking through, but. Yeah, but good weekend, fun, and I mean it was just a 1-day event because it was only 3 teams, but we were able to learn some things and add some things. We added in the player interviews, kind of player of the match, which was sort of cool, and hats off to Primo that he was thinking that would be a good idea. We did it, and it worked out. So that's kind of like a new feature in our live broadcasts, and we had the 3 seats rolling on the announcement. So. Yeah, I thought it was a great day, and thank you to the Red Hawks for hosting such a good event.
Absolutely. Anything to add from around the table?
Yeah, no, it was a really solid weekend, and it was very nice to get down there. And technically, Amelia is our first paid employee of the EGRL because we bought her breakfast and lunch. Wow. So she's our first official W-2.
That's a
we will need that money for the breakfast back.
What town was that in?
It was in Raleigh.
Raleigh, Durham.
Raleigh.
That's in race cars.
Or Raleigh.
RAALLLLY.
Raleigh B series. Jan, did you get a sandwich?
So he bought us lunch.
Oh, that was nice of him.
That's right.
It's not bad.
Chicken wings for all my friends.
All right. So it sounds like a good weekend kicking off the Southern Divisional down there. Great to see that, we just keep expanding on the Eastern Seaboard with the EGRL and just roping in more talented teams. So great stuff there, and more development to come there. Okay, so let's drop into the emerging weekends. And, I'm going to have to say that I'm wondering if this is not named correctly because, frankly, I was blown away at the level of play that was out there that weekend. Hats off to all those teams. And let's get some feedback from the group.
Yeah. So emerging, I thought I agree with you. It was a test.
Yeah.
So we started this with the idea of we don't really know how it's going to go. The concept was to draw in teams that maybe weren't quite at either the level of play or the numbers to put a 15s team out there, but try to find ways to engage them a little bit. And so we had Orchard Park, who had a big squad. They really had probably a team and a half, almost probably 25 kids, I would say, maybe. We had Corning, who similar, pretty big group. They bust in, and Hudson Catholic, who was a little smaller. And so to round it out, to make the fourth team, we invited Greenwich down. So Greenwich played Morris, their A side, and then Morris put in kind of a U16 team. So it wound up being like 5 different parties and 4 different teams is kind of how it sort of worked out. And the games were good. We started out with Hudson Catholic playing Corning, I believe, and that went pretty well. I mean,
it's Hudson Catholic's first 15s game.
Yeah. And I thought they really did pretty well. I mean, you know how it is. If you've never played this sport at the 15s level, there's a lot of little parts that you're not used to, like scrummaging and lineouts, and those are big.
Yeah, and the reality is most of those kids probably didn't play sevens either. Like rugby is a new concept again in that school.
Yeah.
Not for a lack of trying. It's just they've had a gap for a few years and now they're back. So all of these kids are pretty much new to rugby. So
yeah, it's a fair point.
They had a great program a while back, but you bring up a great point. That was 4 or 5 years ago. So
yeah.
Anybody with any rugby IQ and experience is well gone. So I mean, they're starting from scratch.
Yeah.
And they're starting from, not only are they really starting from scratch with the program, but 15's completely new to everything.
Actually, Alan is the coach there. She's a play rugby coach from years past, and she's done a nice job. She's kind of picked it up and gotten them organized. They were there, they played, they had fun. A couple of bumps and bruises, but no major problems or injuries. So all of that, I think, is a real good story to tell. And they'll be back for Rugby Showcase.
Yeah, we expect to see really good things, for certain.
There's video on the YouTube channel, and also lots of pictures. Lindsay came out, took a bunch of pictures. So it turned into a really nice event. The weather was perfect.
Great venue.
Yeah, we had USA Rugby show up and do the talent ID camp on Sunday, which was super well attended because so many teams were there. They did it for girls and boys. The boys was pretty well attended too, but the girls, there was a ton of kids, and so that was a real win.
Yeah, I think it was 60 girls total.
Yeah, something
with their
like
names
that.
in.
120 total athletes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So good sign. It's always nice to see, right, when you start to see those kinds of numbers.
Yeah, and shout out to all the parents who helped that weekend. Really, really solid.
Yes.
Couldn't have done it without you. So
yeah.
And to add to that, Clinton Township and the rec department and the Eisenhart family, who between the triad of that group really just pulled together a fantastic event at a beautiful grounds, in a beautiful grounds.
Well, thanks.
So,
yeah. So yeah, definitely worth mentioning Clinton Township. They've been growing in their support for the sport, which is always awesome. And Bunt Park has become something that I think has some future there for rugby. So we'll see. Stay tuned. But overall, they've been letting us do a little bit more and more, and seeing the vision of having a really nice facility for rugby in this part of the country. So it's pretty cool.
Having a nice facility definitely made a difference in the level of play and how people were playing, and playing on. I believe playing on turf is very different than playing on grass, and I think that every team there definitely felt more comfortable on grass, and it helped their level of play.
Yeah, it's a great point. I know that we cringe anytime we go somewhere and it's turf. It's sort of like, geez, let's hope we don't wind up with an injury.
I do want to explore one comment that was, I don't want to get let glazed over, and I kind of want to pat the back of Bill Dobbs and Mike Eisenhart, and I think it's the U16s and the performance that they put on that weekend. I was duly impressed. I really almost shocked at, if this is what we have coming up for the high school program, watch out, because Morris is on a great trajectory.
Yeah, I agree. The girls stepped up and really played well. We know there's players at that level. We know we have them. But really getting them a lot of playing time has been difficult this year. The merging weekend was perfect, and the girls went out there and they're like, yeah, we want to keep the train rolling. So, yeah, real good stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, so it's a great luxury that we have to have enough numbers where we can sort of break up the team U16, U18. In a sense, I think it's like we're like half a step ahead of the sport because there aren't that many other U16 teams. And so because of that, you're kind of like, well, we love the idea of having these many numbers, but then the playing time issue becomes an issue because you want everybody on the field. So it was a nice thing, and I think it has the potential to grow. Like, let's say we have an emerging weekend in the South next year, and some of the teams that are smaller and trying to kind of get to this level, and then some of the bigger teams like Charlotte who have 30 kids, you know, they may want to do the same thing, and it worked out really well. And I agree, the girls, man, they came to play, and I was so happy to see that.
Yeah.
Because they didn't care. U16, U18, put an opponent out me, like, this is my chance to show what I can do, and they did.
They certainly did. You know, and tip of the hat to that whole squad. You young ladies played a fantastic brand of rugby that weekend and should be very, very proud of yourselves.
Yeah, it was nice seeing some of them have their, as I like to say, their aha moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden a bulb went off and these kids are off and doing everything that we're asking of them, where a week ago they weren't.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it was
No,
nice
that's.
seeing
I mean,
that.
listen, Maddie Gonzaga. Like,
Yeah.
if we have to throw a name, I mean, she broke a run, and it was like, as she's breaking this run, her eyes are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you can almost see the connections happening in her brain. And she's like, I'm just gonna keep going. And we were like losing our minds on the sideline because it was a beautiful run.
Sienna too.
Yeah, Sienna, a freshman, you know, just brand new to the sport, but it was like, now you can get away with some of these, like, I'm still learning technique and things, but it's impacting. So, yeah, I agree.
And then you would see the confidence the next time they got the ball.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That-
Completely
that was
different,
what
right?
was most impressive. It was all of a sudden, like Dob said, aha moment, and then off to the races. They had confidence.
It's awesome.
Jan, you bring up a great point, and talking about Maddie, and like we're sitting under the tent, you know, pulling the game, calling the game, and you know, you just, like you said, the eyes got wide at first, but then on that second run, there was a look of determination on that young woman's face, and it was like it's over. Rugby's her game, and she's here to play.
Yeah.
You know,
It was great to see.
fantastic to see.
So last thing I have on emerging guest commentators. At one time we had Marissa Kogan
It's true.
and Reagan King.
Yeah, day 2.
Yeah, it was great watching those two do their thing in the booth. But I think if anybody wants to see this, go watch the last game on EGRL channel.
Yeah.
And watch the homeless man wake up behind them. Just appear from behind them.
That is
Because
honestly-
the fields are very nice, and this homeless man decided. Well, he's not really
If he were
homeless.
to
he just
punch you in the
looks at it.
face,
He
you
looked
would have
like
to fight off the strong urge to thank him.
He had a nice nap on the nice
Sharks have a week dedicated to him. He is the most
That clip is
interesting
not
man in the
play,
world.
but
All right, let's move on. One last thing on the emerging weekend. None of this would be happening if it weren't for Marissa Kogan, who last year was like, hey, I'd like to try commentating.
Yeah, that's a good point.
She's like, you know, would you join me? And I'm like, oh, geez, I don't know. And I'm trying to avoid her the whole day. And, you know, and then she locks eyes with me, and her parents are right there. And I'm like, oh, okay. But had it not been for Marissa, I don't know where we'd be right now. So nice job, kid.
yeah.
Well, you wouldn't have people come and taking selfies with you.
Yeah, I mean, think of all the glossies you've handed out.
Right, yeah.
Pictures with my mom are not selfies. They're just family photos.
And it's worth shouting out that Marissa graduates around now and is heading off to Syracuse,
Yep.
right, University, to do media and communications. So best of luck, Marissa.
Broadcasting, yeah.
She has a great future ahead of her.
Yeah.
100%, yeah.
Definitely her chosen craft.
At some point,
And the right one.
we will literally be sitting in this garage, and we'll be like, remember that time we were with that famous broadcaster, Marissa Kogan?
Oh, I thought you were going to say Steph Alaprande.
No, are you kidding?
Marissa, just don't get too big to where you start charging us appearance fees.
That's a fair point.
You got to take our calls, please.
Yeah, and then, you know, just one last shout out to Martha Danes and her team there. You know,
Yeah.
really good job with the trials for.
Yeah, it was awesome to have them out, and I think they're supportive of the vision too, right? Like, we're really trying to lock into this idea of something within our region of the country that can grow and you know, raise the game a little bit. And I know when we start talking about nationals, we'll be able to speak to that some, but yeah, the support is absolutely appreciated.
100%. So let's wrap up the emerging weekend and drop into last weekend's club nationals. And this is a good one because for the last few years, Morris has opted to do some different things, some very fun stuff. Like we went to Portugal for the biggest youth tournament in Europe in 2020. Unfortunately, with the great global pause, nothing happened. In 21, we went to
21, we were still kind of shut down.
Oh yeah.
Correct.
We played locally.
21 we played North Bay.
West Carroll, and yeah, it was as far as we went.
Yeah.
Yeah, and lucky to do that during that pressure from all the COVID restrictions. And then this year, 2023, we're back at nationals, and I think Chris, you said it, like this is where we need to be. Like this is where the talent from around the country comes. This is where we get to see those West Coast teams that we hear so much about, and they deliver. And let's pick it up right from there.
Well, I wasn't there, so I can't give the first hand count. But I did watch several of the games. In the dueling streams, the dueling live streams. So I know the Rugby Network was officially there, and then there was this other guerrilla band that showed up and broadcasted Field 2 in the RPS squad, which was awesome. Thank you for doing that.
Always fun.
Yeah, but I tell you, for me, it is nice what you said about like seeing the West teams, the West Coast or West of the Rockies, call it teams. I mean, there's the 2 teams from Utah that came out. I mean, the Majestics were the eventual champion, but like they're solid and strong,
rugby.
And they play with high skill and high intensity. And of course, Sacramento. I mean, like Sac Pal team that you expect them to come out, the Amazons, and put on a clinic. But for me, the thing that was the coolest was to see that several of the EGRL teams, Morris and Aspetuck and Charlotte included, gave those teams games. Like it was not the walkover that we've seen in years past. And that was kind of the conversation in years past about nationals. It was like, well, you're kind of playing for, at best 4th because those other teams are coming in and they're just going to eat you up. And I didn't see that. I mean, when I was watching the pool play, there were some tight games, and it was like, okay, like the level is coming up. And I mean, I'm not going to say EGRL is the reason why, but it was nice to see that sort of competitive nature, and maybe that prepped our teams a little bit.
Well, yeah, I would say EGRL is definitely the catalyst behind that because it's bringing all the East Coast talent together to face each other throughout the regular season, which only ups everybody's game. And I want to build off of that about talking about the West Coast teams. And Bill, in between games, you're always, hunting down the college coaches and advocating for our players from, 1 to 23. And I think you heard an interesting comment about the game is changing on the East Coast.
Yeah, a couple of coaches, and I was over handing out rosters and, promoting our girls as I usually do. We're saying they were talking. They said, looks like the East Coast is finally catching up to the West Coast, which to me that was a huge compliment.
Huge compliment.
So I don't remember what coaches said it, but there was a bunch of them there. So
yeah, listen, if anybody said it and felt strongly enough to say it out loud, I think that speaks volumes. Because, again, I mean, you guys were there, I think, in years, and I don't know if you guys remember those scores, but I can remember going to that tournament and these were not games.
They were tough.
You just go out and it was losing by 40 was a decent day.
You'd have a good first half, but you'd succumb to injuries, and then the second half would be a runaway game for the opposing side from west of the Rockies. It's like these East Coast teams they put the great fight out for the first 40 minutes, but geez, you lose a 9, you lose you lose a tight head, you lose a good winger. Like your game's going to take a dip. Like and that's exactly what used to happen. And I think slowly but surely, or very quickly from this tournament, that's changing, and that's great to hear.
Yeah. So I mean, if you looked at it on paper, you wouldn't see that subtlety as much because still the top 3 teams are the top 3 teams, and so Majestics and United and Sac Pal all. Actually, I think I got that backward. I think it was Majestics and Sac Pal, and then United. So that's 3.
Then Charlotte.
And then then there's a sort of a run of EGRL teams, right? So there's Charlotte and Aspetuck and Morris, and I think maybe Wando took 7.
Sounds about right.
Somebody took 7. And then there's another couple, and then Raleigh took 11.
Yeah.
So out of 12 teams, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 EGRL squads there.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Really good.
So I think that
100%.
says, okay, like, give it another year, keep working, keep inching, and maybe something happens.
I think recruitment becomes easier too when you think about it, right? You come back after a weekend like that and start telling those stories around the lunch table at school, and oh yeah, and by the way, we walked away 5th in the nation.
Yep.
What? Yeah. Maybe you want to give this a try. Come out to practice next week. So, and I guarantee those conversations are happening in high schools all over the Eastern Seaboard in the past week or so.
Yeah. Let's hope.
Yeah.
Man. the more the better.
So, wrapping up club nationals, Bill, I felt like we were meant to be there. I thought the tournament went really well. Hats off to the team at Warren Wilson, Katie Wurst and her staff, and also Pam Laura, who's the organizer of this great event. Hats off to the west of the Rockies, as you so aptly put it. Great brand of rugby, bringing it to the East Coast, and happy to have all you guys there. Let's drop into a preview of the RSE, which is the rebranding behind Mars, and I'll let Brian, as one of the organizers, why don't you take it over?
Yeah, so we have, quite a few of the EGRL teams coming in this year. We have room for about 14 teams, give or take.
Yeah, give or take.
So we're going to have some teams traveling in from Illinois, from New Hampshire. We're looking at multiple teams from Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Maryland. We're going to have some teams from the Southern EGRL bracket. Yep. So yeah, we're really excited. We just can't wait. It's going to be really, really good. So. Yeah.
So it's no longer regionally mid-Atlantic. We've expanded.
Yeah, well,
that's what
great point.
Necessitated the
This
name
is why
change.
we bring them.
See, that's it.
Yeah.
It's an analytical mind.
Somebody's picking up what we're putting down. That's great. We got all sorts of static the other night about it. Like, why are we changing the name? Mars is so good. Well, it's no longer Mid-Atlantic. That's exactly right.
Rugby Showcase East.
Yeah.
Great component. And you know what? Pat on the back to Brian Ahern and Mike Eisenhart,
Mostly Mike.
who badgered poor Bill Dobbs for countless months to bring this to fruition.
That was 2021.
God, I miss those days.
That was what we did in 2021.
I mean, amazing. And then you two guys took the helm and pulled together this fantastic tournament in less than 4 weeks. I mean,
it was a pretty big.
Well,
everybody lift.
You were at the helm, and you did a great job.
100%. 100%.
Credit credit's due.
Yeah. Take the compliment because it's well deserved. And again, if it's not for the efforts for the folks here in the room, but specifically these two folks here, we wouldn't be where we are today, and the name change wouldn't be happening, right? We'd be the Mid-Atlantic. We wouldn't be the regional, right? It's fantastic stuff. Anyway.
Well, I know that we've had really good responses from the college level coaches and recruiters, so it looks like we're going to have a jam-packed event. So
yeah, a lot of good stuff. I mean, the thing that I think has really elevated it is, when we alluded to the trophy, right? Like that's day one. Day one is EGRL championships. And this year it's grown even another level because it's gone from just the finals to now semifinals and finals. And so the 4 teams are locked in, right? So Morris and Doylestown, who were in the final last year, both are going to be again in the semifinal. In fact, they'll play each other. So Battle of the Delaware happens as a semifinal match. And then the match that I'm probably really looking the most forward to watching is Aspetuck West Carroll. Because watching them all year, they are both playing a very physical, very athletic game.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to be a battle. I really do. They haven't played each other. So it's kind of like, well, anything could happen. And I think it's going to be a good one. So those 2 semifinals will happen day one. And then at the end of day one, I'm hoping the way the schedule works out, it'll be the finals. Winners will play after those going for the 3rd place game. Yeah.
That's a great point. I'm looking forward to that game as well. 2 hard-hitting, well-coached, athletic sides coming together for the first time. That's going to be the showstopper for certain.
I think so. I think that's a really interesting game. And then, of course, obviously the championship game will be high energy, hyped up. You could look at that in many, many different ways. You've got West Carroll, who certainly would probably love to take another shot at Morris because they've had some really close ones. You've got Morris, who would probably love to take another shot at Aspetuck because of the way nationals worked out. You've got Aspetuck, who is happy to engage and say, yeah, I'll take and we'll prove this point.
Any takers.
And Doylestown, who you can never, no matter what, count out. So it's like this could be really, really good.
Yeah. Oh, I'm kind of getting excited here, Mike. Yeah. It sounds like it's going to be a good
and that's
one.
going to lead right into the college recruitment meetings, and hopefully we can get a lot of kids in front of those recruiters and get some college scholarships going their way.
Yeah. So I've said this a handful of times, and it begs repeating, and it's Bill Leclerc's comment after the first year. He came up and patted us all on the back, and just as he's turning away to go to his car, he goes, "I only see one problem." And we're like, oh boy. And he goes, you're not going to have enough parking. But what a compliment to be paid, to the weekend and the organizers, from such a top level recognized coach. That
yeah, I think we've had a pretty good run of coaches who have been there, but it's nice to see that most of them are coming back, so they're seeing value in it.
Michelle Reed,
Michelle Reed will be there. I mean, it's posted on the website so far. I think there's probably 15 teams that have already kind of confirmed, and we're getting more each day. So usually by about June 1st, we've got a solid list of who to expect on both the team side and the coaching side. But yeah, as you said, I mean, it's a bulk of EGRL teams. New Hampshire selects coming down, Illinois selects coming across, and Greenwich and Southington. So Southington will add some new athletes. So Greenwich didn't feel like their team, they could port their whole team back, but they're going to combine with Southington. So that's effectively the number 2 and number 3 team in the state, and possibly the number 1, because Greenwich still plays Aspetuck for the state championship, I think probably like right now.
Yeah, and just for me, I knew we were onto something when I saw Sacred Heart post their recruiting schedule early in the year, and Mars was one of them. And now being Rugby Showcase East, it shows that college recruiters see it as a good event to be able to see multiple athletes and really open it up for them, which is all we want. So.
Yep.
And this begs repeating as well. Bill Dobbs, the work that you do in the background to get appointments for our ruggers shouldn't go without mention again, because you've done a hell of a job for a lot of kids out there. Absolutely.
Well, it's nice to see them get into schools they wouldn't have, or get money they wouldn't have, or whatever. It's just nice to see.
Yeah.
Or look at a school they may not have ever even heard of before.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you couldn't hear that on the mic, Jan made a great point. It's like being able to consider a school that maybe they might not have been considered before, because rugby just gives them that little extra edge over the other student who's competing for that spot.
I mean, listen, Lauren is a perfect example of that. I mean, I didn't know anything about Bowdoin, and it's a very competitive school to get into, and I don't know that door would have been open to her on academics alone. But the combination of academics and athletics and being exposed, particularly at nationals and at some other tournaments, it was like, like all of a sudden this is a realistic potential. And, she'll be graduating next year.
And that's Lauren Eisenhart. That's Mike's eldest. And she's got rings like LeBron James now, which is pretty impressive.
That's funny.
But I think
Not Yogi Berra, though.
Not Yogi Berra.
I think another draw for the college coaches is that we put them in a special area, a special area of the field where they can do their job and not be badgered by maybe over enthusiastic parents.
Good way to put it.
And they have an opportunity to see the girls play at the full game.
Yeah,
they're not just getting highlight reels. They're getting attitude and demeanor, and everything else that
Bang the gavel.
Yeah, that really truly shows you what you were bringing to your team, and but I think they appreciate the fact that they're left alone, and they're over in their area, like a VIP section, and they're fed, and then they make the approach. And which is, I think, refreshing for them, because if they're just walking around in circles at a tournament, people come running up to them because they know who they are, and sometimes they can't get away.
Well, you make a really good point, because we're there watching rugby, having a good day, and they're there to solidify their teams at the college level. So they're really doing their job there, and they're going to be nice to parents who come up to them and everything, and they're going to spend time with them. But it's really important that they get the chance to just watch the quality of rugby. And I will say the quality of rugby at the high school girls level is blowing up exponentially. Yeah. It's phenomenal.
Couldn't agree more.
And actually, some of them, we leave a section open where it says, tell us about your needs. Tell us what positions you need, or this or that. And, about half of them will fill that out. And that does help us to kind of say, hey, you should be looking at this kid.
Yeah.
Or this kid flies under the radar because they maybe aren't that vocal, or maybe they're not flashy, but believe me, they hold a team together, or they've got that leadership that you're looking for, whatever it is. So you're absolutely right. That's been a really key stakeholder. And so far, the colleges and university coaches, including the one from Drew University, who's flying under the radar right now. So without that, you know, the kids don't want to show up if the coaches aren't there, and the coaches don't want to show up if the talent's not there. You know, and so it really is kind of a multi-stakeholder thing, and in many ways we're just sort of providing the venue, so it's working out.
All right. I mean, that's fantastic stuff. Looking forward to it. Let me pull the pin on this grenade.
No. No.
And another selects maybe in the works for this August. Mike, you've kind of been spearheading this. Give us a little peek under the tent.
So yeah, that's about all we can give because the details are very fuzzy, but there's interest. I think it's fair to say there's interest, right? So the Baby Birds, who we played down in Florida earlier in the year with the EGRL Selects, had reached out and said, hey, what do you think about getting another game going, maybe in the late summer, kind of right before fall? And of course, you know, in general, we love it. We're trying to figure out where that can happen and if that
Logistics.
can happen. And yeah, there's some things to kind of pin down, but I think the interest is high, and the opportunity may be there. So that's we can probably leave it there. The opportunity very well may be there. It may involve travel. It may involve hosting. That's unclear. But so far, us and the Baby Birds and actually a team from Ontario is in conversation. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
And I think it's exciting for especially probably our juniors and sophomores, because the senior class is going to be kind of on their way out the door, so they probably won't participate, getting ready for school and college, which opens the spots that maybe weren't there in the spring. So that's, I think, exciting, and it might help us, you know, give some opportunities to some kids who are either on the bubble this time or are ready now. It's probably fair to say, in general, everybody is supportive of the idea of trying to get more of these selects types games.
Yeah.
And because we know it, you know, it does what we hope it will do. It raises the level of play. It gives kids an opportunity to play again against a more competitive opponent. But more important than that, and the thing I love the most about it, is that it brings those kids together for practices and camps and training sessions, and they benefit from that, as we've seen this entire year. During the league games. I mean, the relationships are strong, the continuity gets better, the level of play improves. So it really is almost like an ambassadorship for the league and therefore for the game. So I'm all for it.
You know, it's definitely changed the landscape, right? It's like, you know, there was some like begrudging respect between players, like the good players in the opposite jerseys to one another, that kind of stuff. Now there's handshakes and hugs and you know, and chats and getting together off season. That, you know, it's really it's inspiring. I am a firm believer in it. I think it's the right thing for the games and you know, for building the game of rugby, youth rugby in this country.
Yeah, I think that the thing that we can hope for, and this is really just a hope, is that what you're describing will continue to roll down, right? Because by definition, the selects piece of this, some people are not going to get in, right? And so it is an elite level select team.
Yep.
And we know that creates some anxiety between, you know, teammates and things that happen locally, and that can erode quickly things that matter. It's sort of like, well, hopefully we're doing something at an even, like this is bigger than our local teams. This is about the sport for the women at the country level. Like, if we look at it that way, then I think the price that we might pay locally because there's friction between teammates, or there's a feeling like, oh, you made it and I didn't, or whatever that is, I still think it's worth it. Like, I look at that and I say it's a lot. Every single coach within the league takes some of that on because that risk is now real within your own lineup. But when we really think about what we're doing here, which is raise the level of play and put a United States team that is, you know, comparable with the best in the world, then we're doing our part for that. And I kind of feel like, for me at least, and I'm happy to have that conversation with anybody, like, I'm sorry, but that's what we have to do. Like, we have to be uncomfortable to get to the next level, and this little bit of discomfort is growing pains, in my opinion.
And it creates you know, it creates anxiety, and when you're not selected, you're disappointed, right? And some,
we've all been
you know,
there.
and they're young kids, right? But it may take some kids and give them that extra motivation. Hey, maybe I need to go to the gym.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to learn another position.
Totally.
Maybe there's more I can do next time to show to show coaches that I deserve to be on that team. And it's not going to be everybody,
Right.
but it may just amp it up. And that right there, that increases the level of play, the level of athlete that we're presenting, that have the opportunities to go to the Eagles emerging or the Eagles selection camps and other select sides. I think it's a motivator as much as it creates anxiety, animosity, and everything else.
Yeah, no, I think you're right on. And we've seen that, right? Like, that's the beauty of it, is that when you raise the bar, the best of the best rise to the occasion. Like, that's a well-known thing. And unfortunate as it may be, like, that best of the best is not for everybody, for whatever reason. And it's not usually ability. As you suggest, it's usually just desire and effort. Like,
Well, it's pyramid,
do I
right?
want to do the work? Like, it's a lot of work to play at the elite level. But I think without the opportunity, then there's no chance to step up into that and learn that about yourself.
And we can't be afraid to give that opportunity just because some people might be disappointed.
That's right.
And let's remember that we're less than a decade away from hosting both World Cups in this country, right? And, we automatically get a bye because we're hosting, but, let's get out of the pool stages.
That's right.
USA, right? And this is the kind of stuff that's going to get us there, right?
Well, and so you really nail something here, and that's the thing that I think, at least, and I'll speak only for myself here, right? But, like, the driving force, in my opinion, to do the work that we're doing is because we have good enough athletes in this country to be respectable and respected at the international level. And we all know that. And there's a lot of banter and conversation. You can pull up any Facebook feed you want, and everybody's an expert, knows what we, quote, should do. But nobody's actually doing it in their little environment. And so in our little environment at the high school level, like, you could talk about it all the time, but what have you done? And so until you've done something, like, quite frankly, shut up. Okay? Okay, so now that reflects back on us. And here we are, a bunch of dads who are saying, like, you know what? No, we have a little part to play in a very big thing. We have high school rugby, and we have high school rugby on the East Coast. Okay, we'll do everything we can to maximize that. And quite honestly, like, again, speaking only for myself, disclaimer, speaking only for himself, like, you will not hear an apology. Like, that's, like, I'm unapologetic about that.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to raise the bar and we're going to go after this. And that is hard work. But if you're willing to do the hard work in your own little small town, in your own little piece of the problem, well, then maybe you made it a little bit better. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox and,
And one last thing is, to your point, 10 years from now, these kids, these 14-year-olds will be 24. They're going to do nothing better than be able to play on your home soil in the World Cup.
As John Sutherland does when he grabs the badge on the jersey.
So when we were down at Warkra during the winter break there, I think the average age of the U.S. national women's team was 29 or 30. Wow. I think it was up there. And when you look at the other teams in the world, they're an awful lot younger. And that shows that there's and COVID has something to do with it too, right? But there's a gap in, let's say, where it also comes out of, okay, you've got the high school programs, you've got college level doing pretty well, but then what is there for rugby for women after that? And the WPL is now helping with that. So, there's going to be a new crop of female athletes that are just high level. So,
well, and I think part of the hurdle that we have in the United States for both men's and women's is that most of our ruggers find the game much later in life. And so when that level of skill develops to where you can represent your country, it's representative of the age bracket that we have playing that field. As we develop these things locally, Mike, to your point, men, ladies, gentlemen, get out there and start doing this at the grassroots level. That's right. You're going to benefit the national program. You're going to benefit the pathways. We're going to start getting those younger players in there. We're going to be competitive. But it's got to start here. It's got to start here. Guys, on that note, wrapping it up for all of us from the Sappy Dads, have a terrific Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy some cold beers, some great barbecue, and don't forget about the men and women who laid their lives down for this beautiful country that we're in, and we'll end it with Go Eagles.
Thank you for listening to episodes from the Garage, the official, unofficial voice of the Elite Girls Rugby League. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, @Elite Girls Rugby League, and follow us on Instagram, @Elite Girls Rugby. Special thanks to our producers, Team O'Brien, Team Chef, Cameraman, and Guy Who Knows a Guy, Primo, the Monrad family broadcasters, guest commentators, The Emperor, Melody, Steamroller, Jeff, Alex Goff for jumping on the mic at Gonzaga, Reagan King, Marissa Kogan, and of course our wives and daughters who entertain our crazy ideas and continue to associate with us respectively.
I am Iron Man.